Yep, 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 yep.
Yes, it's the Finnish Football Show. I'm Mark Wiltshire. Thanks for joining us for another episode. It's episode 27. It's a new year, and as usual, we've made you wait ages between the full Finnish Football shows. We're starting this recording at 9:45 Finnish time because we've had some technical problems for the last 20 minutes, which were my fault this time. And normally I have someone else to blame, but I think it's down to me. Sorry we kept you waiting so long. Luckily, Rich put a little something together in January to fill the gap since the last show came out at the end of last year. But we'll come to that a little bit later. As usual, I'm joined by Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
By Rich. Hi, Rich.
Hello.
And last but not least, Keke. Hi, Keke.
Hello.
So this episode is going out live on Podbean. If you're listening live, remember, it also allows listeners to call into the show. I've got the other three with me, but there's still one space. So if you're watching live, and apparently you're not at the moment, but if you were watching live, you could join in. There's a little button you can click to ask to join the show. And if I like the look of you, I might let you on if you've got a question or a comment to make. We now have 29 Podbean followers. You can have followers here on that there Podbean. And I wanted to give a little shout out to one or two of them. But you know what? I almost daren't click away from anywhere just in case we lose it. How about Fernando Costa? Hi, Fernando. N Fedora and the Stockton Sea Dog. We'll say hello to those. They're three of the most recent followers that we've picked up. Thanks for following. Hopefully you've got notification that we're live now. Maybe you'll even be able to join us, and if not, you can have a listen afterwards or check out the podcast. We normally edit the top and tail this thing. There was a lot of top today. I'm not sure if that's going to make it into the cut or not. But if you're not listening live, we still want your input. So podcast listeners, use social media to get in touch with your feedback. Our handles are, well, why don't we read out your own handles? Mark, what are you?
I'm at FC Suomi.
And Keke, what are you?
I'm at Keke Mylläri.
And Rich?
At Escape to Suomi.
And I'm at Explore Finland. You're more likely to get one of the other two on Twitter, but I'm more likely to be found on Facebook. And you can also find the newish Finnish Football Show Facebook page. And we've also got a Facebook group. The two work slightly differently, so they're linked, they're connected. Ask to join. We'll probably let you in, and you'll see some of the stuff that we've been sharing on Facebook, as well as like league tables, top scorer charts, and things like that. So maybe we should get on with this show. It looks like being a pretty full episode. In the first half, we'll do a few reviews. We'll do a review of Rich's interview with the Huuhkajat captain, Tim Sparv. We'll do a review of the performance some of us had trying to buy tickets for Euro 2020. And we'll do a review of the recent Suomen Cup group stage. And then in the second half, we'll start to look forward a bit to the 2020 fixtures for the Finnish national team, including the three Euro 2020 group games, and also look to the imminent 2020-21 Nations League draw, which takes place next week on Tuesday, the 3rd of March. Finally, if we've got any energy left, we'll look at some of the notable transfers to have taken place during this closed season. We'll also squeeze in the regular features, Jasilla Sipuli, where we look at a Finnish football phrase and unpack it and explain it. And also following, where we show a little bit of love for someone that we like to follow. Normally this is on Twitter, so why not we stick with Twitter? But let's start the first half of this show with a little bit of this and giving Rich some props for his recent interview with Tim Sparv. Rich, tell us, how did this interview come about?
This makes it sound very unglamorous, but when
you, Rich?
Yeah, I know. When I first started Escape to Suomi, Tim was actually quite, how can I say, he got on the boat quite early. Very helpful and supportive. We did some email interviews. I think the last one we did was in 2014. Shows how long ago this has been going on. And he always said, if you ever want to do any more, crack on. And after the whole sort of qualifying for Euro 2020, I sent him a message, and it was quite straightforward. He had some time before his club team went off to Dubai for mid or pre-season training camp, and he had a sort of half hour, 45 minutes, and and luckily I wasn't working that day, and it all worked out quite nicely. We did it by Skype, and to be honest, I think the podcast came out about half an hour, and quite frankly, I could have talked to him for half a week. There were enough questions and everything I could have put to him, but he's one of these people who he's always very generous with his time to pretty much anyone who asks. He does a lot of interviews with media all over the world, really, and I guess being the captain of Finland and being fluent in 3 languages and being sort of useful at communicating in others, it's quite a great thing. And it was worked out really nicely, and it was great fun.
That was one of the things I found most interesting about the interview. You asked him about Glenn Kamara's Finnish and the fact that he does his interviews in English, even though he kind of spent his childhood growing up in Tampere. And then sort of Tim turned around and mentioned that he's a native Swedish speaker and that his Finnish is not great, and that obviously living here that it's a bilingual country, but it makes you take a sort of step back and think, oh yeah, there's that kind of, I don't know, potential divide between the players that makes the way the teams come together sort of even more remarkable in the last year or so.
Yeah, and I guess there's so many players. I mean, Fredrik Jensen, for example, he's a native Swedish speaker, isn't he? And throughout there's, I mean, it's not a divide as such, but you do kind of think that having someone who can communicate with, that make things that much more simple. It just makes a big difference, and I think it. You haven't got the excuse of being lost in translation or anything, and it's just such a big thing that you kind of don't think about necessarily until you talk to someone who's involved, and you realise, especially being a captain, how important communication is.
I mean, one of the things that struck me was how involved he was and how hands-on he was with stuff like the preparations, like getting the going over the digs for where they'd stay and going over the entertainments and stuff for the players. I thought it was really eye-opening, because I genuinely, I mean, I hadn't really thought about it in any great detail, but I just assumed sort of you get the armband, you do a couple of team talks, and maybe you have a little bit of rep. But it didn't kind of occur to me that you'd be that massively involved, but you really had the details down for what the plan was. Yeah,
I mean, there's the old sort of thing where a lot of captains probably are like that. They turn up, do the formalities, and essentially that's it. And you go this way where the captain is, I suppose, the shop steward, and then the only concern, I suppose, is who does he represent? Does he represent the players? Does he represent the coaching staff, or does he sit somewhere in between? But I think a lot of that is. That yes, this is a massive year and almost a novelty. I guess you want to get these things right, and if he's got contacts, he talked about knowing the Sweden captain, then things like that, you need to kind of take those on board. But again, it's just a kind of insight into what goes on, off the pitch, away from those 90 minutes.
That was really interesting, actually, when he mentioned that he's friends with the Sweden captain, and he might give him a call and say, because I imagined that all these teams, all their preparations and what they've done at previous tournaments would be closely guarded secrets. But Tim was quite open in the fact that he was going to give the Sweden captain a call and say, what's it like being away for all this time during this tournament football? And he seemed quite confident that his counterpart would be able to just give him a few pointers of how to maybe alleviate the boredom between games, and even down to the sort of where to sort of base yourself and all that. It was a real eye opener. And the thing I've likened supporting Finland to almost supporting a club side before, and it came across to me that Tim was a bit of an old school club captain. like the old captains from English football in the 80s, where it was the captain's duty to organise the Christmas party and stuff like that. It was like, not just turn up, talk to media, go away. It was, and I do think that is a big part of the team spirit that we've got at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not sure that he should be trusting anything that's told to him by the Sweden captain of all the countries to ask for advice.
Yeah.
Send him right down the river, I reckon. Yeah. Bear in mind, they're staying at the same hotel England stayed at the last World Cup, so and they're staying in Russia, so I guess they're sort of covering a lot of bases there.
Anyone have any other comments? If not, we can move on to the next section. About the Euro 2020 tickets, and I've got a question to ask each of you before we crack on into that.
Oh, go on.
Okay, so Mark, did you get a ticket for Euro 2020?
Yeah, I did. I've got two.
And Keke, did you get a ticket for Euro 2020?
I got 3.
And Rich, what about you? Did you get a ticket?
I'm going to 4 games.
Finland games, though.
One Finland game.
Okay, well, and you got it quite last minute, didn't you? So we'll give you a bit. You can have a cricket ripple.
Yeah, it's a restricted view apparently. So.
Okay. And what about me? Did I get a ticket? No, I didn't. I was 3. 75% of the Finnish football show is going to the Euros, and this one's not. Poor me. But
we'll FaceTime you.
But thank you very much. Thank you very much. That would be lovely. I think that it will probably be shown on TV no matter which country I'm in, so I should be okay to see it. But maybe we should get a little tifo made. Each you can hold up a little Finnish football show tifo. That would be something.
We'll do a live pod.
And while Keke's on the pitch molesting various members of the Finnish team in celebration, we can be holding up a small FFS tifo. I get it. So good on you guys. I tried. I wasn't optimistic, and I was right not to be optimistic. Rich somehow got lucky because we both applied at the same time, but he got invited back. And I didn't, and I've still been checking him up now every day since last Wednesday when you told me, and there's nothing there, so they don't want me. But I guess we just wanted to mention that there may be more tickets coming available this week on Wednesday. So I'll probably publish this on Tuesday the 25th, Wednesday the 26th. I checked the UEFA website, and it says, quote, ticket resale. Tickets will be listed for sale on the official UEFA ticket resale platform on the 26th of February 2020. Create your account now so you're ready to buy. If you check the show notes, there's a link to that there UEFA website. But when I clicked the register link, it wasn't working, so I gave up. I think it's a conspiracy. No one wants me in Copenhagen or anywhere near the Finnish team, so I'm taking the hint. Anyone got anything else to say about the Euro 2020 tickets?
So I think. Oh, go on.
No, go on.
Yeah, so I think. After the playoff games in April, there's another round of sales where you're probably going to get resale and re-releases of tickets. So before there's the resale that starts next Wednesday, which is February 26th in 2 days, and then in April there's another round of sales. And I'm not exactly sure what the numbers are, but I think all told it's been something like 28 million ticket requests that's been put into UEFA for this for the Euro 2020, which I think it's double what it was for the Euro 2016.
Well, there are almost twice as many teams as well taking part this time.
That's very true, and it's spread all over. But I don't know I've seen some reports from Belgian media that the Belgium-Finland game is likely to have tickets available to it all the way up to the tournament, because not many Belgians, they don't tend to travel in that big numbers, and Russia's not that appealing to many of them. So I think if you're still looking or hoping for a ticket, I think Belgium, the Finland-Belgium game in St. Petersburg is the one to hold out for.
Obviously, Mark, your travel plans are different to Keke and Rich because you live in different countries, but also going, but going some different games. How have you found making the travel arrangements?
So the travel was, you're going to pay through the nose to get anywhere near Copenhagen. Copenhagen's already expensive to start with. I'm waiting. I'm hanging off on the train ticket. So we're gonna get. You can get through SMEco. You can get flights if you sign up, or you can get a train to Russia, or you can get a boat to either Russia or to Copenhagen.
Okay.
But I think the train set that you get from Helsinki, for example, it's like an 8-day excursion. So you go there for the whole time. So the regular
to take into the 2 games that are over there. Is that how it works?
Yeah, which is, I think, over it's over Midsummer, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to hang off for the traditional VR tickets that come out about 3 months before. So I think they're going to come out in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
That's quite handy for you. It's almost door to door, isn't it, on the train?
Yes, Russia is pretty close. Although it's not as handy as like Estonia or Sweden, but it's of all the places we could have got, it's a nice one to get to.
What about the others? The other 2? Any stories?
I will be flying to St. Petersburg from Gatwick with Russian flag carrier Aeroflot. So wish me luck with that one. Hopefully. And my wife declined to come with me to St. Petersburg, but she is coming to Copenhagen. Don't worry, she doesn't have a ticket to the football, but she's just coming for the weekend in Copenhagen, so we can have a look round, etc. And then I'll disappear with the other lads off to the football. But on the subject of tickets, again, I just want to say big shout out to the SMU Corps. They did a cracking job negotiating with the Palolita and UEFA, and because I don't know if you guys were aware, but there was a guaranteed amount of tickets for members who had been to at least one of the qualifying games. So anyone who had been to at least one qualifier was guaranteed the opportunity to purchase a ticket for the finals, and I think that's almost the fairest way for it to be done, really, and the best that the SMU Corps could have hoped for through their negotiations. So I just want to give them guys a shout out again for doing that. Yeah,
SMU is the Suomen Maajoukkue Kerho, which is the sort of the national team supporters club. So just so that those are not completely au fait with who that is, then it's worth giving them a proper shout out.
And as Mark said, like they're working on chartering trains and chartering planes and stuff. So if you are keen to travel through those semi-official channels, then they're making that available.
Yeah.
I have to let you know, chaps, I don't know if you noticed, but someone that we just gave a shout out to at the start there, the old Stockton Sea Dog, has joined us. So I'm not sure which is his first name, which is his second name, but hi, Stockton. Good to have you with us. Hope you can hang it out to the end. But if you can't, the podcast is coming out. We'll be there. We got a reply. Good stuff. You're still there. Thanks for joining us. Okay. Oh, God. Suomen Cup group round stage. You can hear my heart sinking already. I've been bubbly for the first 15 minutes. Just a little summary. This is the second year of this kind of format of the Suomen Cup, where in January, February, there's a group stage. And the idea of these group stages is to get 8 teams from the Veikkausliiga, 4 teams from Ykkönen, 2 teams that were finalists in the Kakkonen Cup last year, and 2 teams that were finalists in the Regions Cup from last year. Thanks, Rich, for explaining that. It's only taken me a year.
It's the Kakkonen Cup of this year.
This year, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Just to confuse everyone else.
So when was that cup played then? Because there isn't much of this year.
That's ongoing as we speak.
I see. Okay.
They finished the quarterfinals yesterday. I'm not sure if they've done the semi-final draw yet, but basically the 2 teams that qualify for the final will go into the last 16 of the main tournament as well.
Okay, good to know. And I'll update my notes in a minute when one of you two is talking. I can mute my microphone. There's still a few games to be played, but one thing that has been decided is that neither Asjuk or Seinäjoki or their academy team will be going any further in this competition. But what I was going to put. I was going to clip some images of the various tables, and then when I realised there were about 20 different tables to get this group of 16 teams, I gave up. So I've included in the notes the games that are upcoming because they're being played over the next week or so. What apart from the trend that Asjuk haven't really won any games, what other things did we notice, or what can we learn from this Suomen Cup group stage?
Well, so far, I mean, it's difficult to tell. I mean, it's so early because essentially the season still doesn't start for another 7 weeks. And the Suomen Cup merged with the Liga Cup about 4 or 5 years ago, which was a pre-season tournament, and it's all very, they can't make their mind up. I mean, I did some research recently which showed the participant numbers in the Cup has gone from, in the last 11 or 12 years, it's gone from about 400 teams down to, I think there were less than 40 this time round.
Yeah.
And again, this is what we're left with. It's basically a pre-season tournament for the big clubs, and anything smaller than Ukkonen have got virtually no chance of getting anywhere. They might, if they're lucky, get drawn against, I don't know, FC Lahti or something like that. And that'll be about as glamorous as it gets. But hey-ho.
Hey-ho.
Yeah, I think it does have that feel. I went to a couple of games, and I shared a picture with you. The stadium that Asjuk plays in, this wall sport arena, is like one of these big bubble halls. Yeah, a little bit up inside a bouncy castle, and at one end there's this little mezzanine floor, below which is a gym, and on the mezzanine floor they have these like exercise bikes. So for one of the games, I was sitting on an exercise bike watching the first half, peering over the balcony with a beer in my hand. It's kind of surreal, and it does have the feel. I mean, the Liga Cup had the feel of a pre-season warm-up competition, and this has kind of just taken on that vibe and added to the fact, because I know that you were sniggering about Asjuk when I couldn't get connected and couldn't hear you earlier. But there's just like loads of players coming in at different stages all the way through. So I don't know what that really tells about the team. Actually, probably nothing much. And as I said in the message to you guys the other day, I've just got to keep the faith that the manager that was able to win the Veikkausliiga last year hasn't left all that knowledge of how to do it up there in Kuopio, and we have to keep the faith.
Well, I mean, I think for Asjuk, I think you're probably right. They probably need to still do quite a lot of business to get themselves back into any kind of shape. But if you look at Hoikko look like they're ready. Ropi Riski, Tim Varonen, what have they got? They've got Riku Riski, Rasmus Schuller's back. They look like they're pretty much ready to start the season.
They've got the star striker from Papua New Guinea as well.
Yes. Whose name I would pronounce as...
I think it's David Brown.
Yeah. It's David Brown. Yeah. It's not Hassan. And they have that Macedonian kid as well, which is it Hassan? Or... But one of those. But yeah, they've got a lot of players that have been sort of brought in that look like a proper team. But yeah, there's a lot of teams that are still cooking, that are still getting ready. One of which is not FC Haka. So Haka also look like they'll be all right in the Veikkausliiga at the minute. Because normally when a team comes up, they're sort of fodder to go straight back down. And Haka, I think, look like they're set up pretty well.
They got my main man up front this season.
Has he started yet? I don't know if he's played.
He played the other night against Lahti in the cup.
All right. But yeah, they're looking good, and yeah, having Eero Markkanen back is like, yeah, that's a big thing.
Well, people sort of forget, they won the Uukkonen by, was it 20 plus points last season, I think.
Yeah.
And that was Teemu Tainio's first season as a coach. And they've already come now. I mean, I've only seen highlights, but from all accounts, they're very solid. I think they're not going to come up and sort of reinvent football or anything, but you don't really need to. I suppose success for Haka would probably be finishing the top half.
That would be success for Asukor after the last couple of seasons. I settle for coming in the top, top half. Yeah, you did want to say it, but you're too much of a gentleman. Can
I just give a shout out as well? If you follow the Suomen Cup on social media, every week they do a goal of the round, and because the games will be played over the weekends, they normally just say, right, which was the goal of the weekend, and you vote on Facebook. The goal of the week 2 weeks ago was a penalty scored by Malumaki of Ilves, and it was a great penalty, but there were some goals that weekend that, I'm not going to lie, probably more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. And the fact that he then scored another penalty the weekend after, which became second in that week's vote, just goes to show that people shouldn't be trusted with voting for anything.
Democracy doesn't work.
Clearly. That was a great penalty.
So we still got some. We still got some way, or a little way to go, to see exactly who the final 16 will be, and then is there a draw, or is the next round already planned out?
I think it's an open draw. So then you've got the last 16, quarterfinal, semi-final, and the final is in May in Turku. And weirdly, the winner of this competition will be the first team to qualify for the new UEFA tournament. I think it's called the UEFA Conference Cup or something like that.
Europa League Division 2 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's basically the poor man's budget Europa League. So this will mostly be the winners of domestic cups from countries like Finland, and I'm not sure if maybe one of the other European places from the Vegas League will go in there as well. But yeah, this will be the winner of that competition will go in there, and I don't even know how that's going to work. I don't know what sort of glamour or prestige comes with it, other than you're playing in a conference. So.
Sorry, Rich. I was typing messages trying to entice the Stockton Sea Dog to come and talk to us when you were saying. Did you say that the winner of this goes into this new UEFA competition?
Yeah, I think it's the UEFA Conference Cup or something like that.
Of all the
Homes League.
Yeah, exactly. For those that grew up in the UK, the conference is like the first level of non-league. I mean, they couldn't really have been a worse name to have given it.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, from what I've looked at, who will qualify for it, it's going to be like a Matalan Cup Winners' Cup. It's if they market it properly, it's actually going to be quite interesting, because it will be half of it's going to be cup winners. So, I mean, I used to love the Cup Winners' Cup. I went to a couple of finals and all that. So it'll be nice to have it back in, albeit a very heavily diluted format.
But the thing with this is, okay, all joking aside, people were being really sniffy about the Nations League a couple of years ago, and I remember me and you, Mark, having having different opinions about the value of the Nations Cup to Finland, and I was right. And you know, in the UK, obviously I listen to UK football podcasts and as well as the Finnish football show, and people are really sniffy about anything that's not Champions League. Oh, Europa League, it's a bit pointless. You have to play on Thursdays. Or the Nations League, what's the point? And yet you saw the point. It was really exciting seeing England really go hammer and tongs with Spain and Croatia. And I have to say to people back home, like for a Finnish Veikkausliiga team to get in the group stages of the Champions League and the Europa League, it's an important step and can help them grow if they can use that to build. And this might be something where one of these teams can actually go further, and there will be some prize money, but the actual and that will be useful because even that lower level of prize money in leagues like the Veikkausliiga can make a real difference. But also, it's that kind of the progression of winning, or even going further into a European competition that can be really beneficial to clubs in the Veikkausliiga.
Yeah,
you're exactly right, Mark. I mean, it's like we discussed before with the national team and the Nations League. You know, rather than smaller nations being whipping boys for the giant nations, they're actually playing teams around their own sort of level. So they're learning how to win. You know, they're playing teams that they've got a chance of beating, competitive football rather than pointless friendlies, and they're learning how to win, creating a winning mentality and taking that forward. And I think we've definitely seen the benefits of that Nations League run.
Yeah. Do you know what? We've been going for about half an hour, and we're almost at half time. Oh, we are at half time. Who'd have thunk? So no, we don't have oranges at half time, do we, Mark? We have an onion.
That's true.
We have the half-time onion, Jasilla Sipuli, where we break down a Finnish football term or phrase, most of which come from Mark. So what is this week's word, Mark?
This week I'll go with pelisilma.
That's good because that's what I wrote down in the notes. So that's good that that's the one you actually decided to go with. You do have a habit of changing things at the last minute. So what is pelisilma? I mean, the words means game eye, direct translation, but what does it actually mean?
A better translation is something like he's got an eye for the game, and it's usually referred to a player or a lad who picks up the game really quickly with like a natural ability. You can also use it, I suppose, someone like Petteri Forssell, who reads the game well and has got really good vision. But usually it just means that the kind of player that picks up the game naturally, in a sense.
Very good. We should actually keep a little glossary of these words, maybe a glossary of the onion, the halftime onions, and also maybe a directory of the people that we're following. Maybe we should add that to the website somewhere, and we can update it after each live show. But that was very brief. Halftime break. We're into the second half, and looking forward. So we've done a bit of looking back. We've done our reviews of what's been going on recently, and now we're looking forward to the fixtures for this. I guess first half of 2020. I've got a list of the fixtures here. But does anyone else want to go through and talk through them?
I think it's an interesting mix of friendlies. Bear in mind, Finland are going to the first tournament. I think the fact that they're away to Poland, away to France, and away to Sweden before finally hosting Estonia, it almost seems like certainly Poland and France, they're going to be practicing damage limitation a little bit. I think, we talked about it last time. I think the Poland game is going to be almost exactly 4 years since the last time Finland played in Poland when Hans Backer was the manager. Poland won 5-0. Finland were lucky to get 0.
Dark days.
Really was.
I mean, dark days, but that day, I remember watching it. Finland were worse than dreadful. Poland eased off at 5. France, they're world champions in Lyon, and in Sweden, who knows? It's a bit of a derby game, and then Estonia. You'd like to think that that's kind of the farewell. The players are going to be going to the base for Euro 2020 from there. So it's an interesting mix. I know, it's difficult. Finland, let's be honest, aren't exactly prestige opposition for a lot of the teams, and to get France home or away is a bit of a coup. And hopefully it'll be something relatively memorable, if not at least be a good experience. I don't know with 4 games left how many new players they're looking at blooding. I think the general consensus of the 23 man squad for Euro 2020 is there's probably 18, maybe 19 players already on the plane. At the moment, you're looking at probably a third choice goalkeeper and then maybe 3 more.
It's interesting looking at the fixtures. There's this habit that teams have of trying to arrange fixtures against teams that are like the opposition they're going to be playing in the main competition. So it's kind of Poland away because they'll be a bit like Russia, and then there's France away because they'll be a bit like Belgium.
They're good, and they're
and then there's Sweden away because they'll be a bit like Denmark, and actually it kind of, in a way, it makes sense to play those games all away because in the competition they will all be away, in big stadiums and with big crowds, and hopefully they'll get some, the Sweden game. Surely with Finland turning up, that will get a crowd as a warm up for the main competition a week later, and then the game against Estonia. Well, maybe that's winnable, and the opportunity to kind of bounce into the competition with a bit of,
you're going to want a soft game before you, or not a soft game, because there are no such thing as an easy game.
No easy games in modern football, Mark.
Exactly. Estonia is a good opponent to bring in because they're local. There'll be enough rivalry to make it competitive, but it shouldn't be too much of a challenge. I think the other thing is, when they come back from the tournament, the Olympic Stadium in Helsinki will be ready. So that's going to be like a farewell game to the Ratina, where we've been for the last... we've been splitting games between the Ratina Stadium and the Veritas in Turku. But, the most memorable games have come there in Tampere. So it's going to be a bit of an emotional send-off to what's been the most successful home ground we've ever had.
So I've added the fixtures are in the show notes, as well as a link to the Palloliitto website where I borrowed it from. And I've realised with my show notes that rather than typing out all these fixtures and making things more complicated for myself, I can just do a screenshot and dump in a picture and put a link. So that's how it's going to be from that one. Makes my life a lot easier. And I also use the show notes as my agenda now, letting you all behind the scenes there. Anything else to look forward to in these fixtures?
The new kit, hopefully.
Yes.
Oh, you two particularly are obsessed with kits, and you get really excited about not that much. It always surprises me. I like a kit, but sometimes I see a message that says, "Whoa," like it's almost like you're looking at a woman. It's like, "Oh, have you seen this new kit from such and such?" And I look at it and think, "Oh, that's all right, isn't it?" Occasionally I'm with you, but Rich and Keke are real football
kit
strip
nerds,
perverts.
Kit nerds, yeah.
All right, so we're looking forward to a new kit, and we'll be announcing that as soon as the new kit is announced. Maybe we'll have an emergency podcast just to fantasize about it.
I think a podcast, an audio format to show off a new kit is by far the best way to do it.
Yeah. Please, Nike, don't let us down.
Yeah, we've seen there have been some interesting kits out there. And when we're talking about kits, I know Mark's got a little blog coming up in a few days about the Veikkausliiga kits. I don't think for ASIC anything's been announced, but I'm guessing it's going to be black with some gold stripes on the arms because that's what it always is.
Black gold trim, classic.
Classic, but a little bit boring, and I've got ideas that could be really interesting. Although I get it that they have to pick from a template and they're choosing from a catalogue, and there's only a limited number of designs or whatever they can have. But you could do some interesting stuff. I've got ideas, but I'm keeping them to myself because they're mine. My intellectual property, no one else's. What about then moving on to Nations League draw? Rich, you mentioned this, and it's coming up next week.
Yeah, the draw's on Tuesday the 3rd. Already UEFA have changed the format so that the teams that were supposedly relegated from League A are no longer relegated from League A. So
okay.
yeah, so because I think they've decided that they didn't like the 3-team divisions in the top league. So
that's interesting. Do you know, I was looking at this thinking something's odd. Didn't such and such get relegated? And you're right, Croatia are still in there, and Germany as well.
Yeah,
okay.
So the teams that are pot 4 in League A for the draw, they're the ones that should have been relegated.
Okay.
So Finland were promoted from League C, but they won't be playing Germany or Croatia or Iceland.
Yes. That's a bit of a touch, really.
Well, in some ways, and I suppose interestingly now, Finland, because they'll be in League B, they're in pot 2. So really, I mean, we say it's no easy games at this level or anything like that, but you know, there are avenues through that league where if the draw comes out right and they hit the right vein of form after the Euros and players are fit, you know, I mean, you're talking about potentially, I don't know, Wales, Slovakia, and Hungary in a group. I'm not saying that, but certainly give it a good go. I mean, they're pot 2 out of 4. They may well play Wales, the 2 teams from Ireland. You know, they could play Russia. So
yeah, it'd be nice for you and Keke particularly if it was like Wales and Northern Ireland came out of the pot. You know, so a couple of sort of almost home games for you two.
Yeah, and I went to Belfast. I think it was about 5 years ago now for a game, and it'd be nice to just hop on a short flight. Or
was that in the half-built Windsor Park?
Yeah, and that was that was a game. I think that was the first ever football match they played on a Sunday in Northern Ireland, and
that's it.
Protests and all.
I was there.
Yeah.
My first Finland game was actually Wales away in. When was that? Crikey, can't remember. But yeah, that's nice and easy.
Shefty and Tinty 2-0 win.
No, it was a 1-1 draw.
It's been about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, so that's well handy. Just nip on the train down from Paddington.
Yeah. So again, so that'd be, you know, you'd like to think as a 4-team division there, and the games come quite thick and fast in the autumn, and there is still, I think they're saying that there might be 3 places or 3 playoff places for the next World Cup out of this Nations League. So there is something to play for here as well.
So what they've actually done, Rich, is they've got 4 pots of 4 in leagues A, B, and C, and then they've got 1 pot of 4 and 1 pot of 3 down in League D. So it's kind of weighted it more at the top, made it a bit more top heavy, but but still. Most of those pots are now 4s, and most teams will be playing 6 competitive games in this competition.
I reckon if you were going to pick, I think from the pots that we've got, the toughest possible draw is going to be something like Russia, Turkey, probably Romania. Russia, Turkey, Romania, something like that. That's maybe the hardest. And I think even that's doable, I would have thought. If we get the right form and the right thing, they're not like monster teams for us to take. I think we could take.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, and it comes. You know, we got at least 3 competitive games in the Euros, and then a couple of months later, 6 competitive games in the Nations League. It's exciting. It's an exciting year ahead for the Hockeyat. I think I might swap my Ashley-Core shirt for a national team shirt this year. Might treat myself to a new one.
Yeah. Did not make enough of these ones.
The draw takes place next Tuesday, the 3rd of March. That's at 1800 Central European time, so that's 1700, 5 o'clock in the afternoon for you boys over there in the UK, and 7 o'clock over here in Finland. So, and I've got a list, an image of the tables of the pots rather, with a link to the UEFA Nations League All You Need to Know webpage. So that's where I got my information from, and I didn't even notice about the pots changing. So good job I got you, Rich, really. And then the fixtures are played in September, October, and November, similar to the previous one, with the finals following in June 2021. Same kind of format there as the first Nations League. So that's kind of that for that that section there. Notable transfers. Who wants to lead off with some notable transfers?
Yeah, I can take that.
Go on, Mark. You run off with this for to start with then.
Well, I think the best transfer, the best bit of business that's happened is your little sporting fellow has gone to HSV on loan, so he's going to get game like he wasn't looking at steady game time at Leverkusen, so he's gone out on loan for the rest of the season to the second Bundesliga to HSV, and he's got 2 goals already from the bench. I think it's 2 and 3. I think or 2 and 3, 2 and 4, something like that. So that's maybe the best piece of business. Oni Valakari's also moved. He went from Tromsø to Paphos. With Paphos is where Paolo Sarri was playing, and he scored 4 and 4, which is pretty. I mean, it's the Cypriot top division, so you can't read too much into it. But he's a young Finnish forward that's scoring goals. It's pretty good. I think the other ones are Leo Väisänen moved to Elfsborg in Sweden. Petteri Forsell left again from Hoyko and went back to Poland, this time to Korona Kielce. And then the big one, but I think it might be, I don't know if it's the right move. Simon Scrab's gone to Italy to Brescia. Is it Brescia?
Yeah.
Brescia.
With Jorranen.
Where Jorranen is. And he's come off the bench a couple of times, so he's playing. He's a Serie A player, although they're in a relegation fight at the minute. But that's the big. I think that's the kind of bigger transfer. I think he went for a couple of million or 1 point something, 1.1, 1.2 million. So an actual transfer fee for a Finnish international is pretty good going.
Yeah, you mentioned there Onni Valakari, and it was nice to see him scoring some goals. He started to get into the Assikor team a few years back when Simo was just coming to the end of his time, and as soon as Simo left, then Onni left as well, and it was a shame because he looked lively, he looked sharp, and though I saw those goals that he got the other day, and that was quite a strike, that one from distance.
Yeah, he's got a good hit of the ball, and he's got a lot of talent. I think it's kind of strange that he was also starting to get game time for Tromsø. He was also starting to score goals, and I would have thought the Norwegian league's probably a bit better than the Cypriot league. But I guess it's one of those things. He'll play every week for Paphos, and I think he's an outside shot to get on the plane.
Might I suggest that the Cypriot league is a bit warmer than the Norwegian league?
I think. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're going to,
could it be pre-season thing, or is it an actual transfer? Is it a permanent transfer?
No, I don't think it's a permanent transfer. I'm not exactly sure though. Let's have a look. No, I don't think it's permanent, but I think he'll be there for the end. The Cypriot season is going to run until May. I think he's there for that long.
Yeah. Okay. I think I've told this one before, but I'll give props to a friend of the show, Julian, who actually told me he hasn't listened for quite a while. But anyway, as Onni Valakari was coming through into the first team, Jules came up with a suggestion that his song should be to the tune of "I Should Be So Lucky" by Kylie Minogue. Who wants to sing it? Or do we all just imagine it? Onni Valakari. Yeah, exactly. So that would, and we were robbed of the opportunity to sing that. So it's a shame. Sorry, Keke, you were going to say something probably much more sensible.
I was just going to say, Mark, did you notice that Robert Taylor has moved as well? He was at, where was he? He was at Tromsø.
Tromsø also, yeah.
And he's moved to Brann. I think it was in January. So
it's a decent move. I mean,
he'd scored a couple of goals. He'd been at Tromsø, I think
2 years, I think, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, initially went there on loan, I think, from AIK in Sweden, but yeah, scored a couple of goals, played 20 odd games, scored a few goals, and now he's moved to Brann. So see what he does there. And Rich's team, Cups, have been hoovering up players from all over the world. I think there's a couple of Brazilians arrived, haven't they, Rich?
Yeah, they signed one. I think it was from Lviv in Ukraine. They've had a bit of a turnover. They've lost some of the players that they signed in the summer, and obviously the coach. It's been all go at Cups really. I know I was going to talk about that. I'm not sure if there's sort of space in the agenda for that. I'm going to be careful I don't get sued.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I say they lost some of their players, and the new coach is a vintage Norwegian, should we put it that way? Someone who won I think he won the Norwegian League in the '80s
Wow.
He came in and he's got a reputation as a hard runner and very much into that sort of old school training. And there were reports initially that the players didn't like it, and I wouldn't say go on strike, but Cups sort of came out is all very sort of propaganda heavy, going, no, this isn't true. And yeah, it's all sort of go there. And they turned out last week that Cups have basically been given a free pass to play on their pitch. Failed various tests because they play on an artificial turf, and it hasn't passed any of the relevant tests to play Vegas League games on. They were told that they'd have to play at Hoiko, and in the committee meeting, they just decided, nah, you can carry on. And 2 people from the committee resigned in protest, which I suppose is a nice thing to do if you're the majority of the shareholder is also the chairman of the Finnish Football Association. So.
It would have been quite ironic as well that Honkavara left Cups, and one of the reasons was to move back home to Seinäjoki, but because his family were living in Helsinki and he was working in Kuopio at Cups, it would have been ironic if he'd quit the job and moved here, and then they moved the entire team from Kuopio down to Helsinki for home games into his backyard.
Well, this is the annoying thing, and I mean, I'm talking purely selfishly now. The pitch, I think, is meant to be relayed in May. And like most of these stadiums, the club don't own them, so it's a municipal thing. It gets used during the week by various, not even just for football. But we're trying to book our trip to Finland in July, and I'm not being selfish and saying that this may coincide with Cups playing in the Champions League, but I need to know for my travel purposes: are Cups going to be playing in Helsinki or in Kuopio? Is it going to be on my wife's birthday? Which would be that week as well. But again, it's just one of these things, and Cups are also in the news because their new show that Sebastian Saucer's behind. It's basically a reality TV show, and the prize for the winner is, I think, it's a contract with Cups worth €100,000. I haven't seen it. I've heard things.
It's a 10-year contract, though.
Well, exactly. You pay them, and then. But yeah, and again, it's just them. They're in the media a lot anyway, and it's difficult. I Cups on my team. So I've been, since the first time I went to Finland in 12 years ago now. Cups was the one I went to see, and suddenly they win the league and everyone hates them. So, yeah.
I hated them already.
Wow, you would.
But yeah, as we mentioned before as well, with transfers within the Veikkausliiga, the big man Eero Markkanen is back in Veikkausliiga for FC Hakka. He posted a couple of pictures on Instagram of himself on the training pitch, big smile on his face, and looking fit as a fiddle. So hopefully he can have a decent season, smash a few goals in the Veikkausliiga, and maybe secure himself a seat on the plane for the Euros. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility.
I think there's a lot of players that are thinking that. I think there's a lot of players that have come back to the Veikkausliiga because they want to make sure they get game times and start off on the right foot. So I think you're right. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, but I think he'll have competition.
Well, I did see something. Apparently, he's never played more than 1,000 minutes of a top flight season before.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if he can get a run of games, because I mean that period he was at AEK before he went to Real Madrid. I think the first spell there he was on. I mean, I suppose that was what earned him the move. But I mean, he was
on fire.
Then. But he didn't actually play. I think he'd only played maybe 7 or 8 games in that run. But then since then, he's got more stamps in his passport than James Bond. But he's, if he can stay fit and playing, in a team that, let's be honest, they're not probably going to struggle. So you'd like to think they'll be on the front foot a little bit. He should get some chances.
He should. But I think, he's back. I think Vahid Hambo is back at Lahti.
He's looking good.
Yeah, I like. Hambo's he's grown up a fair amount. He's got a lot of weight in him, but not a lot of weight, but he's strong now.
The Finnish Latam.
Finnish Latam. He's ready to rock. But yeah, Rope is back. Who else is back? Sakari Tupiainen came back. I don't know if you remember, but he tore up the Estonian league when he was a teenager, 4 or 5 years. Then he went to Sweden, and he's back in with an outside shot. And Serge Atakai is back, isn't he? I think, did he go to I think he went to Asi.
He came back to Asukor. He was there for the first half of last year on loan, and has now transferred, I think, on a two-year deal. And yeah, he's good, direct, dribbles with the ball. The ball doesn't get in the box quite often enough, and when it does, we haven't had the players up there doing anything with it. But I think now that Tuukka has also come from Cups, but literally just but only really been in the team maybe for the last game, and I'm not even sure if he started it or if he came on the bench. So it's really kind of early for him. But yeah, Atakai's back there and looks lively as well.
It's strange. There were people were really excited about him at Rangers, and I don't know why it didn't work out, but obviously he's found himself back home again. But yeah, initially people were really, really excited about him.
Yeah, and
speaking
one of those things, and Vitala's moved back to Finland as well at Asukor.
Yep.
Yeah. Where did he come back from? I meant to look into this a little bit more before starting this show, but I forgot.
He was in Denmark. He got relegated. He got relegated with, I think, Aalborg. Was it Aalborg?
Yeah,
and then he was in the Danish. Yeah, and then he was in the Danish second division for a bit, and then I think he's just back. But he won the title with Mariehamn. When Mariehamn won the title, he was the key.
Like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
What was that, 3, 4?
Yeah.
2015, 2016.
16, I think that
was it that long ago? Good grief.
Well, actually, they won it in 15, didn't they? Mariehamn 16.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because obviously at Asukor, Mikael Axelu left at the end of last season, and Jesse Öst was to come in and be the first choice keeper. And now I can't remember the younger guy's name who joined during this closed season, and yet there's been some very, the level of goalkeeping's been a bit meh so far. So it was surprising to see another kind of experienced goalkeeper come in, but it's kind of reassuring. There's some real competition there.
I think he's genuinely looking at, it's a horrible situation, I guess, when, Finland's always had the strength in depth has been in goalkeepers. And you look at the national team situation now, and Hradecki is a clear number one, Joranen's clear number two, Antti Jakala is injured at the moment, and I don't know when he's going to be back, because I think he dislocated his shoulder and had some complications with that, and now everyone's suddenly seeing that third goalkeeper spot, which is probably the best job to have in the world, is the third choice goalkeeper at a major tournament. It's and you think you've probably got, realistically, maybe 4 or 5 goalkeepers have got their eye on that position. And I think, Vitala, even Virtanen at Cups, as an outside shot. And again, that's where the conspiracy theories are coming, that if they pick Virtanen, the Cups would get some sort of solidarity payment for losing him in the season to go to the Euros. So there's, again, the tinfoil hat brigade are out in force. But there's... again, it's that situation where people will honestly sit there and think, this is the one spot where they think they've got an honest chance of getting in. And it's like the old days of having Niemi and Jaskalainen and players of that caliber all at the same time, and you can only pick one of them.
Very good. I think I know we've been talking now for about an hour. It seemed like we were ripping through it for the first couple of sections, and but we've got there. We've got to the hour, which is good. Which means we're approaching injury time, and injury time is where we have our following feature, our monthly nomination of someone we know or like on Twitter, basically. Who, I think this was you, Rich, that suggested this week. Do you want to tell everyone who we're following this week?
So Juha Tamminen is a Finnish sports photographer. He has been taking photographs of virtually, or most, I think, of the major world and European tournaments since the early 80s. His catalogue online, his archive, is rich with images from Mexico 86 and Italia 90, various, lots of Finnish. Well, he's got ones of early Jari Litmanen when he was at Reipas in the sort of mid to late 80s, and a lot of sort of novelty ones as well. He followed FC Jazz when they were good and various things. He seems to have, I think he's got some sort of connections to South America, because there seems to be a huge amount of, from his travels in following the national team, even youth team tournaments in Uruguay and Argentina and places like that. But really, he's also a big Nottingham Forest fan, so everyone has to.
So it's not all good then.
Well, no. Well, I think he's got a picture of. I think his one of his profile pictures is him holding the European Cup when Forest had that. So not many of us can brag about that. But
true that. Yeah. There seem to be quite a few pictures of South American footballers holding Finnish sports magazines. That was a bit of a speciality.
Yeah, that seemed to be something he did when. But this was again back in. Because at one point, I think Colombia played in Finland, and it was either 86 or 88, and Higuita scored a penalty in the Olympia Stadion in front of about 2,000 people. And he had a picture of Valderrama holding Urhe Luletti, and there's one of him, he may have been in Naples, with Diego Maradona holding a copy as well. Maradona looked like he was in prison at the time, and I think when Brazil played in Finland in the 80s, and Pele was over as one of his ambassador roles trying to flog Tat, and there must have been an advert for one of his Viagra pills in there as well, because he was holding a picture of, I think it was Futari, of that. But just the catalogue. It's if you find him on Facebook or Twitter, you can go through it, and I mean I used the pictures from that with the watermarks of the Finnish football kits that we did. Was that before or after Christmas? I can't remember.
Round about then.
Yeah, and some of, some were action shots, some of the publicity photographs of, going back to the 80s when Finland football kits were, albeit templates as well, but they were the sort of template kits that we love now.
They were good.
Yeah.
There's a picture. I've put a picture of that Carlos Valderrama tweet of yours in the show notes. He's a handsome devil.
Is that the
with
one his fingernails are really long as well?
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. Needs it for combing that hair, I guess.
Yeah. But I think he's on Twitter. I think it's Tamminen Juha.
Yes, and there's a link there as well, so you can all find out and follow him.
Yeah, he shares a lot of sort of stuff that he's dug out the archives, and I know he's going to be appearing on an Italian 90 podcast in the summer called Vincere. And I know the guy who's doing that, he's managed to get Juha on there along with various former players and that. So Juha's going to be talking on there about his time in Italia 90. Taking photographs of the games there. I think he was at the final taking matches as well. So
I dare say that when that comes out, Rich, you'll be sharing and spreading the word about that on.
I've made a small appearance on one episode.
What? There are other podcasts that will have you on.
I know, it's ridiculous.
That you haven't made yourself.
Yeah. If it makes anyone feel better, it's me basically doing a Barry Norman style review of the Italian 90 pornographic movie.
Oh, man.
It does make it a lot better.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
That is how low the bar is.
And on that
shoddy technique.
And on that bombshell,
I'll send you a link.
It's full time. We've had enough. No more of that. But yes, do share the links when you have it, Rich. So remember, you are welcome to join us for the recording of the podcast. We've had Stockton Sea Dog with us today, but he's at work apparently and can't join us, and we won't tell his boss if you don't. You can join us on Podbean, follow us on Podbean, and you'll get advanced warning, or you'll get notification rather when the show's coming live. And if you join in, you could ask a couple of questions by text or even sort of join the show. Keke, just explain to everyone, how do you join the show? Because you guys sort of log in the same way. What does one have to do?
Well, you just look for the show on the Podbean app, and then there's a little chair icon saying "call in." Click on that, and away you go.
Yeah, because I can't see that, so it's interesting for me to hear how this thing works. And Mark, Keke, and Rich both or all managed to log in much more successfully than I did today, so it clearly works quite well. I mentioned before the new Facebook page, so join that for advance warning of the next show. And there you'll also find a link to our Facebook group if you want to join in or instigate a conversation. There's links to both of those at the bottom of the show notes. And you can also follow all or one of us on Twitter. Follow the one you like the best. I'm at Explore Finland. Mark is...
at FC Suomi.
Keke is...
At Kekemulleri.
And Rich is...
At Escape to Swarmy.
And that, dear listener, is your lot. Thanks a lot. Until the next time on the Finnish Football Show.